It's a great day. It's an amazing morning. Everyone in the class is so happy. Smiles on their face. All their pearly whites are showing. It's great. Just for the record. No, but seriously, just just a fact of history last night. The Cowboys beat the Giants by 40 points. It is what it is. Not going to gloat or celebrate too much. And then we made an if-then statement because that's what we're learning today. We're learning about conditional statements at the top here. So we made an if-then statement. If you're the Cowboys, you beat the Giants. I'm not saying they beat them by 40 points or anything. Like more than 5 touchdowns. That's crazy, right? I'm not saying any of that. I'm not going to say it was a total season opener statement game. I'm not going to say any of that. Okay, it just happened. Now, conditional statement. You can write it as an if-then statement. And the symbolic form is P arrow Q. Okay, P arrow Q, which means P implies Q, if P then Q. I'm going to explain what these little symbols mean. Okay, the first thing is P stands for the hypothesis. Hypothesis. It's at the beginning. It's right after following the word if. So if you're the Dallas Cowboys, then you beat the Giants. The hypothesis is if you're the Cowboys. That's the first part. Okay? We call that P for short. Why do we call it P? Well, in the word hypothesis is a letter P, right? Hypothesis. So there's your P in hypothesis. Okay? Maybe that'll help you remember. Just don't spit on anyone. Okay. Then the last part kind of makes sense. It's called the conclusion. It's at the end. You all know conclusions are usually at the end, right? So the conclusion following the word then. So after the word then is your conclusion. So P is the hypothesis, Q is the conclusion. Conclusion does not have a Q in it, obviously, but it kind of sounds like a Q, conclusion, if you really stretch it, if you really try, and you really squint your eyes. So hypothesis is P, conclusion is Q. Okay? Now, if you have an if-then statement, like these examples, you should be able to tell me what part is the hypothesis and what part is the conclusion. Okay? Does everyone have this part at the top? So look at number 1. If you live in Nashville, then you live in Tennessee. Okay? By the way, last season, Cowboys played the Titans in Tennessee, Thursday Night Football. I was there. And in the post-game interview, I was right behind Dak Prescott. And if you look it up, you'll see me. I'm wearing a star hat. I got 5 Super Bowl rings on. I'm being really extra. Fun times. I'll show you at the end of this if we have time. Okay? But that's what I think of when I think of Nashville. When we destroyed the Titans. And I was there on TV. I'm like a celebrity. It's crazy, right? I should charge for these classes. Oh, okay. I'm kidding. Now, hypothesis, what's after the word if? Right after if is what? You live in Nashville. Underline it. Put a little P under it. Then, okay, the conclusion. What's after then? You live in Tennessee. All right. That's the Q, conclusion. Put a little Q, leave yourself room to write. So let's go ahead and write the hypothesis and write the conclusion. So the hypothesis we underlined is you live in Nashville. The conclusion is you live in Tennessee. That makes sense? Pretty straightforward, pretty easy. What about number 2? What's the hypothesis after the if? The sum of the measures of 2 angles is 90. And then what's the conclusion? They are complementary angles. We definitely did talk about that on the last notes for assignment 4. Complementary adds up to 90. Because 90 is like a right angle, and it's the right thing to do to compliment. Like, a good compliment is like, hey, good job on beating that team by 40 points. That was a good compliment. That's right. Complimentary. Okay. You get the idea? I was trying to bring it back to like historical events that just happened that are very important and very true, right? Okay. Well, anyways, what's the hypothesis here? The sum of the measures of two angles is 90 degrees. Whoa. Okay. And then the conclusion, they are complementary angles. After then is they are complementary angles. You look like you didn't understand. Yeah? Okay. 3, what's after the if? What's the hypothesis? A quadrilateral is a square, right? Hey, no phones. And then after the then is it has 4 right angles, that's the Q. So write that down. A quadrilateral is a square. It has 4 right angles. Cool. And then we're going to do 4 and 5, but make sure you got this down. Okay, ready? Number 4. Now notice these don't say if then, right? Look over here. If then is not here. But you're going to write it as a if then form. So here's the deal. Most sentences we have 2 parts. Mostly. So number 4 has 2 parts. The first one is an obtuse angle. Go ahead and underline that. An obtuse angle is your hypothesis. And then has a measure greater than 90 is your conclusion. Now, not all you have to do, but the big part of what you have to do is put if and then, okay? So y'all see if goes in front, then goes in the middle, okay? Now think about this, because you want this to make grammatical sense. Let me read this. If I just put if then, this is how it would read. If an obtuse angle then has a measure greater than 90, that is not the best grammar, okay? You might have to sprinkle in a few words to make it like flow. So one word you can use is the word it. If it is an obtuse angle, then it has a measure greater than 90 degrees. It can help you connect things, okay? So that's what I'm going to write. So here we go. We're going to write an if-then statement using that P and that Q. Here we go. If it is an obtuse angle, then it has a measure, greater than 90 degrees. You see how I did use the P and the Q? I use it to connect, okay? If and then. Cool? Now there's other ways to do it. You could have said if there is an obtuse angle, then there is you You can use other words to connect as long as it makes some grammatical sense. Number 5, hey, wake up. On number 5, here's another way you could write it, okay? The first part, all numbers are divisible by 4, is the P. Divisible by 2 is my Q. So here's how I could write it, okay? Instead of if it, I could say if a number is divisible by 4, then a number is divisible by 2. Okay? We're going to skip 6 through 8, and then you can flip it over. But do you see how to make sentences if-then? You got to put an if in the beginning, put a then in between, and then make it flow. Okay? If you got that, flip it. Who is still getting these down? Totally fine, just making sure I see. Nobody? Everyone's got this down? I'm going to start moving it. Okay, these 3 we're just going to write down, then I'm going to explain it to you. Okay, so an inverse is formed by negating the hypothesis and conclusion. Negating means to make something opposite, usually by using the word not. The symbolic form is squiggle P, arrow, squiggle Q. Squiggle just means opposite. The squiggle means not. Okay, converse is by switching the order. And it's going to be Q, arrow, P. And then contrapositive is both negating and switching. And the symbolic is not Q, arrow, not P. Squiggle Q, arrow, squiggle P. Okay? Make sure you have that written down, and then I'm going to explain it. I'll make it make sense. Okay, does everyone have this written down? I need everyone looking over here, okay? So, no phones. I'm going to make this interesting. If you just look over here, okay? I'll entertain you, okay? So look at my hands. I have a P and a Q, okay? P is hypothesis, Q is conclusion, right? Now, to do these, to show you how these work, I'm going to use an example, okay? Whether it's true or not, it's just easy to do, okay? So look behind me, okay? P is, I'm Mr. G. Q is, I'm cool. Ice cold. Tundra. Ice age. Freezer. So cold, so cool. Okay, well anyways, so if I'm Mr. G, then I'm cool, right? Now, whether it's true or false, that's the conditional, if then. Now, first thing we're going to think about is this middle one, converse, okay? So when you hear the word converse, what do you think of? Usually someone has. What do we think of when we think of converse? Anybody? What do you think of when you hear the word Converse? Shoes, all right? Y'all know there's Converse brand, Chuck Taylor All-Star shoes that you can wear. I wore them when I was in high school, and I was a confused vegetarian weirdo with long hair, you know? Which is totally fine to have long hair and be a vegetarian. Do you? But I'm saying that was me back in the day. I've changed a little bit, you know? Worked out a little bit. You know? Anyways, so Converse, you might think of shoes. So I want you to think of shoes when you hear the word Converse, right? Now, let's say you wake up in the morning, hopefully you brush your teeth and all that good stuff, and let's say you're about to put on your Converse, Chuck Taylors, right? You're about to lace them up. What's the first thing you do with your shoelaces? You got them in your hand. What are you going to do? If you don't tie them, you tuck them in. But if you're going to tie them, you would hopefully cross them over and then do all the tying, right? Before you tie them, right? Am I right? That's how you tie shoes? They have to cross over at some time, right? Okay. This is all for a reason. So in Converse, all you're doing is taking the P and the Q and you're switching them. So can y'all do something for me? Can you have your invisible Converse shoes in front of you and hold the shoelaces? And then what do you do when you tie the shoes? That's it. I mean, stop there. Step one, switch the order. That's it, okay? So again, take your P, take your Q, and do what? Do it. You don't know how to do it? You don't want to do it? That's fine. All right. Anyways, do y'all know how to do this? Do you know what I'm saying, though? They have to switch, like you're tying some Converse shoes, okay? Now let's do it. Ready? If I'm Mr. G, then I'm cool. What's the Converse going to be? If I'm cool, then I'm Mr. G. Do you see how that works? If I'm Mr. G, then I'm cool becomes, if I'm cool, then I'm Mr. G. Doesn't matter if it's true or false. The point is, did you converse it? Did you switch it? Okay? I know these rhyme, so I don't want you to get them confused. So does everyone think of Converse as shoes and tying shoes means you switch the order? Okay? Hopefully. Hey, oh, now, here's the deal. Inverse. Emergency? An emergency? Because this is brand new stuff. If it's an emergency, but I need you here. Okay? So inverse. Now, if you invert something, what are you doing to it? Like if you invert like a shirt, what are you going to do with it? Inside out, right? If you invert your hat, okay, inside out. If you invert colors, they're the opposite color. Okay. So basically, inverse means opposite. Okay. Now, check it out. The opposite of a P is a squiggle P. Squiggle is the word for not, or opposite. Okay. The opposite of Q. Squiggle Q, okay? So here's the deal. Look. For inverse in the back, look. Everybody look. So, for inverse, I'm not switching, okay? Inverse, you are inverting. So like this. Not P, not Q. So if you have your hands, converse will switch, right? Inverse is like this. Okay, like when someone disrespects you, you want to invert their face. Pop, pop. Okay? Inverse means not. Okay? So let's try that. If I'm Mr. G, what's the opposite of being Mr. G? Not Mr. G. Please. What's the opposite of being cool? Mid. No, not cool. Okay? So what's the inverse of if I'm Mr. G, then I'm cool? What's the opposite of Mr. G? What's the opposite of cool? So what's the sentence going to be? What do y'all think? Okay, so if I'm Mr. G, then I'm cool becomes if I'm not Mr. G, then I'm not cool. Same order, you just kind of make it opposite. And the easiest way to make an opposite is to say not. Okay? Okay, that's good. Let's recap. Converse, what did I do? Switch the order. Inverse, same order, but I make it opposites. And then the third thing, now, do you see how this is the most complicated word? Contrapositive. It's the most complicated thing. You're going to do both of them. You're going to switch and flip. Okay? So this is going to be our little viral social media dance. We're going to get tons of clicks. We're going to make tons of money. No, but seriously, if you take your, if I'm Mr. G, then I'm cool, you switch the order, make it opposite, right? Switch and flip, switch and flip, switch and flip, right? Homecoming, you know, you can introduce this one, right? Call it the contrapositive, right? You got headphones in? Yeah, you do. Show me. Yeah, there it is. Take it out. All right. Oh, crazy. Now, what is the contrapositive of if I miss? Oh my gosh. If I'm Mr. G, then I'm cool. What's the contrapositive? So if I'm Mr. G, then I'm cool. The cool is coming to the front and becoming opposite. What is that? If I'm not cool, Mr. G is going to the end and becoming not Mr. G. So if I'm not cool, then I'm not Mr. G. That's how it works, okay? So we're going to do some examples on here, but the easiest way to remember, converse, choose, switch. Inverse, invert, opposites. Contrapositive is both. Okay, now let's talk about these examples here. I'm going to underline the hypothesis. It is Saturday. Underline, it is Saturday. And then circle the conclusion, there is no school. Okay. Here's the question. What is the inverse of if it is Saturday, then there is no school? So, is inverse where you switch the order or you make it opposite? Which one? Okay. Inverse, right? Not. Don't do this. Inverse is just this, okay? What's the opposite of it is Saturday? It is not Saturday. Okay? Now be careful here. What's the opposite of there is no school? You could say there is not no school, but that's not grammatically the best way to say it. You could just say that there is school. Okay? So that's the inverse. You make them both opposite, right? Let's do it. So if it is not Saturday, then there is school. Okay? So you can change the sentence, but now here's the deal. You have to tell me, is it true? And if it's not true, you have to give me what we call a counterexample. A counterexample is just one example that proves it false. Okay? If I said everyone in this class is a student, everyone in this room is a student. Is that true or false? Everyone is a student in this room. Well, even if it's mostly true, the statement is false, but we don't want to just say, you're wrong, it's false. You have to give at least one example, just one example that proves it false. What's the one example that proves that false? Me, Mr. G, right? If I said everyone in this class is older than 15 years old, is that true? I don't actually know. No? Why not? You're 14. Okay, so you are a one counterexample. I don't need to list everybody. I just need one example. Okay? Do you see how that works? So again, if someone tells you something, are you really? Oh. But if someone tells you something, you could just say you're wrong, it's false. But part of logic is, and here's a counterexample. Just one. If one can make it break, it's a false statement. Now, let's think about this. First, the original one says, if it is Saturday, then there is no school. That is true. We are not counting, quote unquote, Saturday school. Saturday school is not like a normal school day, right? It's really just for attendance. It's in the cafeteria. It's not normal. It doesn't count, okay? So again, normal school is not on Saturday. So this is true, right? Now, what about the inverse? Think about it. If it is not Saturday, what days are not Saturday? Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, and Sunday. Okay, so think about all those days. Does that mean that there is school? Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. But is there a counterexample? Sunday. Okay, Sunday is not Saturday, but there is no school. That's right. That's not true. Okay, so again, we can say it's false, but we have to give a counterexample. It's false because Sunday exists in the world. Okay. Now, take that original statement. Oh, sorry, I'll give you a second. All right. Converse. Now, take the original, but don't do what you just did at the beginning. If it is Saturday, then there is no school. What is the converse? What do I do? Converse? Switch. So take there is no school, bring it to the front. It is Saturday, bring it to the back. What am I going to write? Okay, so if there is no school, then it is Saturday. After you write it, think about it. Is it true? If there is no school, then it must be Saturday. True or false? False. Okay, so if there's no school, that means it could be either Saturday or Sunday. Does that mean it has to only be Saturday? False, because counterexample is Sunday again, right? So false, just because it's not a school day doesn't mean it's only Saturday. It could be Sunday. Alrighty. Now, contrapositive. Tell me contrapositive. What do I do with these P's and Q's? Switch and flip. Switch and flip. Switch and flip. Now you're doing a cool dance. All the right? Who's gonna film me? We'll put it on the social media. We're gonna get lots of likes. Okay. Well, anyways, oh no, you don't have this. You just do it like this. All right. How do I do that? I'm gonna take there is no school, bring it to the front as an opposite. It is Saturday, bring it to the back as an opposite. What am I gonna write here? If there is school, then what? It is not Saturday. Sheesh. Password. Now, is this true or false? Is this true or false? So if there is school, that means it's Monday through Friday. Does that mean it's not Saturday? Monday through Friday is definitely not Saturday, right? All right. So we can say true, cross out number 2, and then we're just going to do number 3 and call it a day on that, okay? Sure. Sorry, does anyone still need this? You have to get all of it later, so. Hey, but I need that back. Number 3, already? If we do this quickly, then I'll be like done. So work with me, right? 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 Okay. So if the temperature is 25 degrees, underline it in the back, everybody. Then it is below freezing. Okay. Can you do the inverse, the converse, and the contrapositive, like all 3 of those? Tell me are they true or false? That's going to be on your assignment, but let's do this last one together. Inverse means I do what? Invert. Invert just means not, opposites. So instead of the temperature is 25 degrees, if the temperature is not 25 degrees, if the temp is not 25 degrees, then it is not below freezing. Okay. Now, do y'all know what freezing is in Fahrenheit? That's Celsius. Okay, so Fahrenheit is 32 degrees, 32, freezing. So the first one, if the temperature is 25, then it's below freezing. That's the first thing up here is true, okay? But here, what we just wrote down, is it true? If the temp is not 25, what degrees are not 25 degrees? What do y'all think? 32, 24, 100. There's lots of different numbers that are not 25, right? Okay, so think about all those possible numbers. Does that mean it is not below freezing? So think of it this way. Can you think of a number that's not 25 that is below freezing? 24, right? So think about it. 24 exists. So to say the temp not being 25 means it's not below freezing is false. 24 is not 25, and it is below freezing. I know that's hard to think through, okay? Just careful when you think through that, okay? Converse means we switch the order, right? Switchy. So I'm going to take the original one and say if, take that P and that Q and switch them. If it is below freezing, then the temperature is 25 degrees. You can, we're in the last 10 minutes though, so careful. Now, it says if it is below freezing, that means it could be what? 31, 30, 29, 28, 25, whatever, 24. Does that mean that the temp is exactly 25 just because it's below freezing? If it's below 32, it could be any number, including 25. But again, this says everything freezing is 25. That's not true, okay? Again, it could be 24 degrees. 24 is below freezing, but it is not exactly 25. Okay, last one, switch the order and change and make it opposite. If it is not below freezing, then it is not 25 degrees. So if it's not below freezing, that means it's 33, 34. If it's in the 30s, does that mean it's not 25? That is actually true, okay? Now, I'm going to leave this up here, but I'm going to pass out your assignment. We only have minutes, I understand. You can start looking at it, maybe even start tonight if you want, but tomorrow we're going to have some time to work on it. However, got to finish it tomorrow because Wednesday we review, Thursday we test.